You're watching Ride Like a Local with Belt Drive Betty. Welcome back to another episode of Ride Like a Local, our last for the 2016 season. This week, we meet Jody Hudek, an amazing volunteer, a key volunteer during the Fort McMurray wildfire. I'm being joined right now by Jody Hudek, who was one of the key volunteers working up at Mac Island in Fort McMurray during the Wildfire of May 2016. Jody, tell me how you came to be at Mac Island to begin with.
Well, I was staying in my apartment until I had to leave, and that was at about 3 in the morning, and woke up to orange walls and looked outside and noticed the whole neighborhood was burning down in ruins, and fire trucks and police were there, so couldn't get into the basement of where my vehicle was, so I grabbed my bike, went outside, and a firefighter told me to go to Mac Island. But when I arrived there, there was a gentleman by the name of Dennis, and I asked him what I could help with, and he said he's just been cleaning up after the firefighters would vacate the premise after they'd come in for food leave, so he was tidying it up. And so I started helping him clean up, and then I realized there was a need for coffee, and I knew where the kitchen was. So I went upstairs, and the weird thing is the kitchen door wasn't locked, and most of the things were locked, but that one wasn't. So I was able to get in, and I started making coffee, and I grabbed a whole bunch of food out of the freezer and the fridge, and I brought it down, and I just started doing stuff to feed the firefighters and give them coffee. And there wasn't a lot of supplies, but enough that I was scavenging, like going around there was actually a coffee center, and so I went in their fridge and I grabbed their cream and more coffee. There's plenty of coffee in the kitchen too, and started processing that and got food out, started preparing food, and realized we needed to be there for a reason, and Dennis was my sidekick. He was a soldier in the Hungarian army for 23 years, and he was like, honestly, if Dennis wasn't there, he was the breadwinner there. He was kicking butt. And every time, not that I was in charge, but every time I would ask him, can you help me with this, can you do this, it was militant. He had it done to an exact science, like disciplinary organization, right? And I was like watching him, and I didn't know who he was. And I was wondering, Dennis was special because he lives on the streets, and I kind of figured that, but I didn't know. Regardless, we were a good team at the very beginning.
Fire, and I met you there, and I told you what I had, because I had gotten in at night, and I met you the next morning. And we started discussing coffee pots and urns and what could we scavenge so that we could really make a big impact here. And we didn't actually get to work together very much. No. We were more like two ships passing. You'd come out of the center, you'd bring me urns of coffee and pastries and whatever else you could scavenge and find to fill in the gaps of what we had while we were waiting for shipments. And then you'd beetle off, and the odd time you'd relieve me for a break. But most of the time you were out back where the barbecues were and in the arena area there, and feeding hot meals to the firefighters.
Yeah, that's correct. With you came out a gentleman named Jeremy Hall and Will Skinner. And Will was basically the cook. He got the barbecue set up. We got hamburgers out of the deep freeze, smokies. Bread was there, set up a table, put on the condiments. So that's the start of the meals. And then we got a little bit more sophisticated because there was a gentleman by the name of Mitch. And he was doing runs from Save-On and bringing us food. And the manager was assisting him at the time until the manager had to vacate because his district manager told him he needed to leave because of the danger. But he gave us permission to enter Save-On and obtain anything that we needed, which was needed because we were running out of food from upstairs. And so that night we ended up saying, hey guys, guess what we got going for you? Steak. So we cooked all night. We didn't go to sleep, and we actually didn't go to sleep for 3 days. I ended up getting access to an office space upstairs because there were people sleeping all over. We had cots set up. It's just minimal cots, but there's people sleeping. You realize there's firefighters, emergency response. There is truck drivers. There are homeless people coming in, and so that was one of the dilemmas at the time. But I ended up finding an office upstairs, so I had a little bit of my own privacy, and I only had a backpack, so I kept that in there, and I would go up there, recharge my phone, because my phone was necessary at that moment too, because I was helping with animal rescue and just communication, trying to get in contact with other people, and my family was, of course, wanting to be in relay with me and make sure I was safe. And throughout that process, I tried to rest, but it was I wasn't able to because of the smoke. I couldn't breathe trying to sleep, so I would rest up there. And then we had a situation where the security guards came and locked the doors, locked the kitchen, because they were informed that was their duty. So they locked the kitchen door where we needed to be accessing, and they locked my door to my little area. So one night I went into this was, I believe, the fourth night now, going on the fourth night. I went into the ballroom, set up a cot, because we had some more cots now brought in, and I laid down, and I woke up, and there was a firefighter sleeping beside me. But the second night, because the doors were still locked to my office, I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was about 25 of them sleeping in there. So people were just taking refuge wherever they could. You know, the firefighters needed space. All these other people, truckers, all these people needed space. And eventually we got more cots in, and we were able to get more beds set up. And we started organizing an area for people who were coming off the streets that had to, ESS and I were working hand in hand. So I would round up people for to go on diversified bus. Every day a bus would come, and so they were then relayed onto a bus and taken to safety. And it was quite a process.
It was quite a process, and it was wonderful to see when the Save On Foods truck rolled in. And do you remember how excited we all were? Oh my God, more groceries, 40-foot van worth.
Yeah, I remember. I also remember you doing your magic and getting not only a lot of equipment in and food, but the Hutterites. Hutterites donated a lot of food, potatoes and onions, and you were going to get more baking. I don't think that was able to get through the second, or did it come through? Oh, we got it, okay. Although we got an amazing amount brought to us, it was going out just as fast because we had a lot of people to feed, to give material type equipment to, and we're talking about when you're in a crisis like that, food's very important, and water, but you have to think about people need eye drops, they need chapstick, they need energy drinks. These firefighters were exhausted. They're going on, like fighting without no sleep. There's some pictures of them passed out on the ground. I have a picture of one passed out on the floor at the Mac Island, just walked in and collapsed.
Yeah. The Sports Camera Store in West Edmonton Mall is your one-stop shop for drift and GoPro action cameras. We carry Canada's largest selection of action cam accessories, along with video sunglasses, hidden-in surveillance cameras, and more. Visit www.sportscamerastore.com or stop in to our West Edmonton Mall location, lower level by the bay. Two Hills, Alberta, winner of the inaugural Canada's Most Rider-Friendly Community Contest, home to the Run to the Hills Memorial Rally and Wayside Fallen Riders Park. Two Hills, Alberta, Canada's most rider-friendly community. The Rider-Friendly Business Association, helping you to shop, eat, and play local. www.riderfriendly.ca. The Rider-Friendly Business Association, helping riders find rider-friendly businesses. I remember I got in on May 4th at 11:30 at night. I'd been out at the roadblock since about 5:36, and we finally got into Mac Island. you'd been there earlier in the day, and we basically started working together virtually at the same time.
Right.
And I know when I got there, I was totally stunned that the firefighters basically had some cases of produce, and that was about it.
Yeah, that's right. And, honestly, if it wasn't for Mitch and Savon guy at the very beginning there, that just, again, it was put in our hands because there wasn't enough fresh produce upstairs to last more than maybe a day and a half. So that was needed. And then there's all these people that were pulling together, and you, of course, with Jeremy or I think Jeremy Hall was responsible for quite a bit of that too. They put out on Facebook that they needed help and they needed supplies, and you wouldn't believe all the supplies that were being brought in. And I was like, where's this stuff coming from? And yeah, it was, wow, pulled through. I got the operation manager and he turned on the gas. We were able to cook upstairs. And then, yeah, Will Skinner kicked butt. Just remember that one? Oh, you didn't? You saw pictures of the meal he made. Oh, yeah. So we were like first class 5-star hotel at that point. We had cots set up. Firefighters set up cots. I did bedding. I did towels. We got trailers brought in for laundry and showers. We got the codes. We were denied entry into the showers after we had hot water. 4th day I had a shower for the first time, and then we were denied by the security, and I went to the security guards and I said, listen, I'm kind of running the show a little bit here. You guys aren't. So we need those showers because there were lineups in the showers. The firefighters standing there for like an hour to take a shower, and I said, open up the showers, please. And they did. They were like, they worked. We all worked together. It ended up, I don't know where the orders were coming from for them, but they opened up the showers, and then there wasn't, and I ran around, grabbed towels, did laundry. So what I did was I made coffee, I made food, I helped, I kept everything up to standards, because I have training from Syncrude, so I know the standards that need to be done for kitchen. Everyone came to me for asking where, what, how, and so I had too many people addressing, so I put a big banister, a poster out with all the information on it, shower code, where they can sleep, where they can get towels, where they can get food, where they can get, a lot of truckers needed windshield wiper fluid, they couldn't get it, so they needed Windex, they needed towels to clean their windows. It just went on, and still addressing people wandering in off the streets still at that point too, so you had to take care of that. Then we had to get meals made for the firefighters, and they were coming in and going, and it was just go, 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 and I never stopped. It was, all of us never stopped. Will, Jeremy, and then another chap came in from downtown, and he helped, and he was making coffee, so.
Matt Coffin. That's
right. Yeah, and I know him from Syncrude, so it was kind of neat. And then 2 other guys showed up, Justin Sycamore, and I don't know the other gentleman's name. I don't know. And then a firefighter came to me and said, do you need help? I have a girl that has food that she accumulated through her hard work, and her name was Brittany, and I gave the police clearance to let her come through, and she came out and she kind of relieved me, because at that point, that was 7 days in, and I was kind of toast. My hands were bleeding, my feet were swollen, I could barely walk, and so she came in and took over, and I went to sleep that night feeling like I could sleep, not worried about what's going, because she was brilliant. She's a beautiful woman, and honored to know her. Justin brought in just an amazing man. He got Tim Horton trailer brought in, so we didn't have to make coffee anymore, because that was the big headache.
That was actually Jeremy that got the Tim Hortons.
Did I say Justin?
Yeah.
Jeremy, okay. Yeah, Jeremy did that, and so that was nice, because now the coffee issue, because the kitchen's located right at the back of the center, so
and
honestly, on the top floor. So honestly, how many miles I put in a day, honestly, I'm not lying, 50 just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. That's why my feet were the way they were. And then the smoke, my face was swollen. I had allergies I was having a reaction. So when that coffee trailer came in from Tim Hortons, thank you, Tim Hortons, I actually cried that day. We had second response show up on the 7th day telling us that we would be relieved, and we weren't. So, got everything cleaned up, got everything ready for the second show, whoever was going to take over. Dennis, should have seen that kitchen. There wasn't a speck of anything. It was immaculate. And we were ready to go, and then Jeremy, Will, and I and Dennis left Fort Mac in their get-up, because I didn't have a vehicle, left my bike behind, and headed off. The teamwork,
Yeah, I mean, none of us knew each other really to any degree. And we all naturally fell into different jobs and roles and just supported and worked with each other. And it didn't matter that we were working 20, 23, 24 hours straight through. Nobody lost their temper with each other. We found something to laugh and be joyful about no matter what happened. And it was just an amazing experience in the resiliency of humankind.
Yeah, it was. And, well, all I can say is I've met some of the greatest people I'll ever know. And it's changed my life. And I'm honored to have been there. I am. Some people say to me, like, why did you stay? I don't understand. Why would you stay in a situation of that nature? And I said, because I was meant to be there. If I wasn't there, I don't know if it could have gone as smooth as it really did. Honestly, it really went pretty smooth. Same thing, right? If you weren't there, you were meant to be there. I didn't leave. I didn't evacuate Fort Mac. And there's a reason for it, and that's because I was meant to be there. That was my calling in life.
I agree. That was an amazing period to see almost total strangers, except for Jeremy and I, all come together for the common good of people that we have no vested interest in.
Absolutely. And just to know that human beings are exceptional. And when it comes down to the punch, I think we work together pretty doggone good. And I think the source that was there, all of the sources that were there, wow, what a team, what a family, what, I don't know how to explain it, but it was unity. It was unity.
Moncton, New Brunswick, home of Atlanticade Motorcycle Festival and runner-up community in the inaugural Canada's Most Rider-Friendly Community Contest, sponsored by Community Futures of Alberta. Thinking of starting a new business? Expanding an existing one? What could you do if you had a team? We'll meet your new team.
Hi, I'm Holly Sorgen. I'm the Executive Director. My name is Wanda Shepard. I work in administration.
My name is Sherry Breen. I am the controller.
My name is Leah Holler. I work with Community Futures.
This is Shane Wallace. I'm the contract business analyst.
My name is Janine Harder.
Community Futures, growing communities, one idea at a time. The shipments of donations that we were getting, the way people pitched in to unload trucks, to, organize stuff so that everything stayed in rotation and nothing got destroyed or wasted until, of course, Task Force 2 came in and threw out all the food that we brought in.
Yeah, that's correct. What happened was Cisco came in with the trailers, food trailers, and unfortunately an order went through that all of the food was to be, because it wasn't through regulations, through Cisco, their regulations, so it all got discarded, and it was, I can't even tell you how many thousands of dollars.
And it was unfortunate when I got there and they told me it had all been thrown out, and they lied to me saying that the Suncor Centre had lost power and that's why it had to be destroyed. And I'm looking at them going, okay, I used to work and run restaurants. A freezer, a walk-in freezer, is good for 72 hours with no power to it if you're not opening the doors. So don't give me that crap, right? Bottom line was, Cisco didn't want to cook food that they didn't have in their chain of command, and instead of allowing us who brought the food and the donations in to take it to the women's shelters or take it to evacuation centers, they just destroyed it without allowing us. They were actually physically preventing us from looking after our own donations.
That's correct. That's what happened.
And something else that really bent my mind was the fact that in a lot of cases towards the end, even just before I left, which was on late, it was at midnight on Sunday when I left, we volunteers by certain authorities weren't treated very well.
The last day I was leaving, a security guard came up to me and said, "Get out." That's what he said to me. "You need to get out of here." And I looked at him. Okay. Off we go. We were treated very poorly on the last day we left. We actually were treated like we were in their way. But I'll tell you, when second response came out and he asked me who was running the show, and I told him I basically am with another guy, he couldn't believe it. He just laughed and he said, "Are you effing serious?" I was like, he goes, "Wow, come sit down." Told him what was going on. So the military was coming, we were told. Remember
Which
that
never
one?
happened.
It never happened, but they dropped off mental health from Calgary to talk to us. That we were going through trauma. You can't be in the site after the 7th day. So we're like, we're ready to go. Well, we couldn't go because no one was replacing us. I know that we continued to prepare food and weren't even told that the trailers were coming in. So Will made he worked so hard. He worked so hard all day to make a stupendous meal for everyone, and it ended up almost all getting thrown out because we were not told that the trailers were being brought in that day. And can you imagine how you would feel not being told and having to throw out all that food you worked all day preparing with all your heart? And even still, the people, after they found out that there was food inside still, because everyone was being directed to the trailers, they still came in and ate their second meal because they knew of his cooking abilities. And I don't know what to say. It's a little bit of, I went and checked out the trailers, met Todd, that was the chef there. Yeah, he was a good guy though, and he did what he was supposed to do, and I was ready to wash my hands and go home and not, well, where's home, but go back to Edmonton and be with my partner. And yeah, it was, I don't know. It was just, maybe someone could have relayed to the people that were inside doing all the work, letting us know. That would have been a little bit helpful. There wasn't the right communication happening with us. And it's funny because when second response came, we got some orders of what we should be doing, and no one was doing it. I did it. They told me clean up outside. No one was doing it. I was doing it with Brittany. No one was there doing the work. So we were like still doing all the labor. We were told what to do, and it was great. We needed to know what they wanted done. And then we got more cleaning staff in the, we had crews coming in, cleaning up better. We had more, things were coming together. Beds were set up. It was getting, at the end, compared to the beginning, it was, when I left, honestly, with what the volunteers did, not anyone else, but the volunteers and the firefighters and some of the truckers were coming in and helping too. We did that. No one else. No one else. No military, no Red Cross, no government employees. It was us.
It really bothered me because we had to go up to the AEMA trailer and ask for help to get supplies in, but we were never ever kept in the loop as to when things would be changing, when the government would finally get in. And I mean, really, 96 hours approximately is what it took before they finally had a rig camp set up to feed these guys.
Yeah, I know. All I know is that the volunteers ran the show.
And I know, like, each one of us had a responsibility that we took on our own with nobody telling us what to do. And, you know, we organized getting garbage picked up. We organized all sorts of things. Those first 72 hours were literally hell on earth.
Yep. Yeah, it's because you go into that nurturing mode where you have to take care of these people. They need to eat. And it's not only that, but you need to listen to them, because some of them were coming in with some pretty horrific stories. So we were there doing our physical work, and but we were also there being listeners, healers, you know. You remember all the hugs?
The hugs, the listening to people talking about how fire had rolled over top of them, how their rigs had run out of fuel, the horrors of having to rip down houses that were perfectly good, and the guilt they felt over it, trying to prevent that fire from spreading, the guilt of not being able to save more homes. Listening to these people, they carried the weight of the town or the city of Fort McMurray on their shoulders, each man and woman to themselves. The sense of responsibility they felt was just overwhelming. But we all somehow found a way to make them feel appreciated and safe in their own way, because when they knew that they had food and clean clothing coming and could finally get showers and look after themselves a bit, their own sense of humanity started coming back.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, luckily, you and I were pretty soft when it comes to our hearts and our spirits, our souls, and we were there to comfort, because there was a lot of dissipated trauma going on, and you know, it's funny because when mental health came in and they said we were traumatized, I kind of laughed at them. Will, I'll never forget Will's look. He just looked at them like, "Are you serious?" Anyways, that look I'll never forget ever. And he was so upset. He was so fed up. But you know, the shock did relay after when I went to Edmonton. Yeah, then I realized I was traumatized. And then I think I cried for a day just because of the pain of other people.
And yet, there was a lot of joy. There were a lot of situations that came out of this thing that just made you step back and be grateful to be human.
What we did as a team not only was outstanding, but what you get from the enjoyment and satisfaction of being a team. And knowing that, damn, it was hard work. I've never worked that hard in my life. And I have done a lot of hard work. You know, I'm not a wimp, but that, what we ended up pulling off, Will was in a terrible accident with a motorcycle, and he pushed himself, and he was in a wheelchair for a year, I think, wasn't it? And he could barely walk, and you should have seen, I could feel his strain and pain, and he just kept going.
And kept smiling.
Well, we actually, out of all the people, Will and I were like brother and sister. We actually gave each other a little bit of grief because he just needed to release, and then I needed to release.
What would you like people to understand about what it really was like to be a volunteer there?
All I'm going to say is anything is possible. If you believe you can make something happen, it can happen.
Yeah, 6 ragtag volunteers who came together with one common purpose: to make a difference. And at the end of the day, we could walk out of there with our heads held proud that we did make a difference. And I think that's what everybody needs to know, is there are no limits when the heart is engaged.
that's right. But everyone there, they were there with their heart.
Well, that's it for another season of Ride Like a Local. Join us next year as we tackle another season, interviewing local riders and checking out what's going on in the Canadian motorcycle scene. Thank you to all our sponsors and